Welcome to Mysterious Japan, created by Heath Havey and dedicated to Japan's dark histories, ghost stories, and frightful folklore. This is the dark side of Japan. Listener discretion is advised.
Part 1. The Nippon television interview. Although Inagawa has disavowed having anything further to do with the doll, Nippon television convinces him to tell the story of the doll. They promise him they only want 5 minutes of his time to tell the story. At the studio, Inagawa sits down on tatami mats in a small Japanese-style room. There are 6 of them in all. The sound man says it is too noisy. They turn off the air conditioner, but the temperature inexplicably drops further. Inagawa makes a joke.
It's coming. It's definitely coming.
The director asks who is coming. Inagawa says,
The ghost is coming. That's a sign. And they also say if you have a brick building with 4 identical rooms, it's a cursed area.
He refers here to the fact that the word for 4 in Japanese also means death. The director tells him to stop joking because there are in fact 4 identical rooms here. So Inagawa begins his story. The temperature drops even further. This is near the beginning of his monologue. He pauses suddenly. The lighting in the room sent shadows across the wall. His manager had shifted slightly, but what he thought was his manager's shadow did not move. Instead, the shadow of something elongates to a tall figure. It seems to him like a little girl's shadow, growing into something large and grotesque before disappearing. Inagawa, always the comedian, makes another joke to dispel his fear.
Ooh, is the ghost here yet? Oh, yes, it's here all right.
Just then, the clock flies off the wall and to the floor. With a gasp, everyone turns to the fallen clock. But then, Inagawa's wristwatch falls to the tatami mats. The pin was still connected to the watch, and the leather had not torn. He cannot figure out how it fell off his wrist. The cameraman mutters confusion. He complains that the shadow of a little girl keeps coming in and out of the periphery of his shot. The sound guy bows in fear, asking forgiveness to the unseen spirit. Upon later review, they find that none of the sound came through in the interview. Instead, it is nothing but garbled noises and static. But among the noises, they hear a hushed female voice saying,
Took them a few minutes after 11. A few minutes after 11 o'clock. It comes just after 11 o'clock.
No one understands what that means, but Inagawa has a guess. The air raid in Akasaka must have taken the young girl's hand and leg at just after 11. They stop the interview, and Inagawa decides to cut ties with the doll altogether, not to speak of it, and try not to think about it. He realizes 4 people in connection with this doll have died already, and the psychic had told him there were a large number of vengeful spirits surrounding the doll. Part 1. The Nippon television interview. Although Inagawa has disavowed having anything further to do with the doll, Nippon television convinces him to tell the story of the doll. They promise him they only want 5 minutes of his time to tell the story. At the studio, Inagawa sits down on tatami mats in a small Japanese-style room. There are 6 of them in all. The sound man says it is too noisy. They turn off the air conditioner, but the temperature inexplicably drops further. Inagawa makes a joke.
It's coming. It's definitely coming.
The director asks who is coming. Inagawa says,
The ghost is coming. That's a sign. And they also say if you have a brick building with 4 identical rooms, it's a cursed area.
He refers here to the fact that the word for 4 in Japanese also means death. The director tells him to stop joking because there are in fact 4 identical rooms here. So Inagawa begins his story. The temperature drops even further. This is near the beginning of his monologue. He pauses suddenly. The lighting in the room sent shadows across the wall. His manager had shifted slightly, but what he thought was his manager's shadow did not move. Instead, the shadow of something elongates to a tall figure. It seems to him like a little girl's shadow, growing into something large and grotesque before disappearing. Inagawa, always the comedian, makes another joke to dispel his fear.
Ooh, is the ghost here yet? Oh, yes, it's here all right.
Just then, the clock flies off the wall and to the floor. With a gasp, everyone turns to the fallen clock. But then, Inagawa's wristwatch falls to the tatami mats. The pin was still connected to the watch, and the leather had not torn. He cannot figure out how it fell off his wrist. The cameraman mutters confusion. He complains that the shadow of a little girl keeps coming in and out of the periphery of his shot. The sound guy bows in fear, asking forgiveness to the unseen spirit. Upon later review, they find that none of the sound came through in the interview. Instead, it is nothing but garbled noises and static. But among the noises, they hear a hushed female voice saying,
Took them a few minutes after 11. A few minutes after 11 o'clock. It comes just after 11 o'clock.
No one understands what that means, but Inagawa has a guess. The air raid in Akasaka must have taken the young girl's hand and leg at just after 11. They stop the interview, and Inagawa decides to cut ties with the doll altogether, not to speak of it, and try not to think about it. He realizes 4 people in connection with this doll have died already, and the psychic had told him there were a large number of vengeful spirits surrounding the doll. Part 2. The Osaka Incident. In 1981, ABC Asahi Broadcasting in Osaka contacted Inagawa, asking if he would talk about the famous doll. He refused, but they eventually persuaded him to take the Shinkansen out for the show. It was summer, the time in Japan when spirits are traditionally out the most, and the station wanted to take advantage of that superstition. Inagawa agrees, only on the condition that he can bring Maino the puppeteer with him. And Maino brings the doll. As soon as he unwraps the doll, a whooshing sound goes through the air. This stops rehearsal. They take a break to check the sound in the studio. During the break, a barking sound of unknown origin catches their attention. It sounds angry and threatening, yet the sound crew is unable to find its source, and the cameraman jokes that the sound crew probably barked themselves as some sort of prank. The show, called Plus Alpha, is a flagship show. A black curtain hangs behind the guests with Plus Alpha written on it. They take their seats to start the rehearsal. Suddenly, one of the producers runs into the studio and announces that they had invited a psychic to the program, but he just got hit by a car outside. Staff was running downstairs and going to the windows. The psychic had just exited a taxi when he was hit by a passing car. What is odd to Inagawa is that the street is not even busy. They hear the sound of ambulance and police car sirens approaching. The producer says he will call in another psychic to assist, and they all scramble around to prepare. It is a live show, so they have little time. They take their seats. The lights are so bright that Inagawa cannot see out past the cameras. He is waiting and wondering when they will call for him to start. He looks around the studio after hearing a metallic sound. Against one wall is a black curtain. While Inagawa watches, the curtain retracts with a clinking sound from its chains and clasps. It pulls back and then gets closer. But there is no one at the curtain pulling it open or closed, and no wind or other disturbance in the studio. Then from the area of the curtain, Inagawa hears a knocking sound. 4 distinct knocks get louder and the curtain billows out toward him, startling him. But the director calls for them to start the show. There is no time for a rehearsal now. About the time that Inagawa is finishing his story about the doll, the replacement psychic arrives at the studio. She is young and energetic, but she jumps back in surprise after beginning the session.
Mr. Inagawa, do you feel anything right now?
He tells her no, he does not.
And there is a young boy above you right now. He is looking down at you from the stage light above you.
She looks directly down from the light to the audience. It is a daytime show, and the audience consists primarily of housewives who come for the live show, but the psychic says they must move immediately because it is dangerous under the light. The crew sees that the stage light is swinging slightly, but they cannot tell the source. They quickly usher the audience members to the other side of the studio. Just then, the lights in the studio go out, followed by a crash. The stage light has impossibly fallen to the ground. Its chains have inexplicably broken. Luckily, no one was hurt. The show is live, so this causes some panic, but once they get the lights back on and the scene is settled, the floor manager comes over and says that the phone keeps ringing. They can't get it to stop. Audience members are calling in about the boy on the television. The psychic says to Inagawa,
The boy is now above you. It's on your shoulders.
The female host of the show asks if they captured the ghost on the monitor. She asks for them to turn the monitor around so they can see. When it is turned for them, they can clearly see the image of the boy on the screen. even though no one was there in person. The boy is right next to Inagawa. The host jumps to the side in fright, and one of the female crew members screams and begins to cry. That odd whooshing noise comes again, and then the set begins shaking as though they are in an earthquake, but there is no earthquake and no source for the shaking. Employees of the station who work outside the studio pour into the studio claiming to have seen the ghost. The crying woman screams out that they are all infected by the ghost. The art director is pointing at the screen and saying that the boy is now standing next to the doll. This all happens in a live broadcast. A producer comes on set and asks what is going on with the show. The women on set are crying, even the female interviewer. A crashing noise and the whooshing sound continue. The rods hanging from the ceiling that hold the curtain and lights are shaking violently and making a loud noise. The producer yells out what is going on. Everyone is confused by the chaos. They cut to a commercial break. They decide to end the live broadcast without continuing after the break. The producer later tells Inagawa that the psychic had been the third. The original psychic canceled after stating that the figure of a girl kept staring at him after he accepted the appearance, and that he felt ill after. Inagawa also learns that a crew member saw a boy follow Inagawa into the studio but thought it was his son. The security guard witnessed the boy say good morning at the entrance. A receptionist saw it as well. Another staff member spotted the boy in the lobby. After the show, many of them thought of the experience in a different light, considering the experience to be traumatic. Part 3. The Guest House. After the fright on the live show, Inagawa decides to visit some old friends to calm his nerves. They are the Taniguchi family. He invites Mino to come along. The Taniguchis run a guest house with a calming view of Mount Fuji on a small island. By the time they get to the town, there are no boats or taxis to take them to the island, so Inagawa's friend agrees to pick them up. Mino holds the doll on his lap wrapped in a white sheet. Inagawa begins feeling sick to his stomach. Looking out the window of the car, he sees what appears to be a white light flitting around. It cannot be a bird, but it is large and follows them. He sees it as an orb whizzing around to and fro around the car. Mino sees it too. They look at each other, but say nothing. At the house, everyone wants to see the doll, so Mino pulls it out and begins unwrapping it from the white cloth. As the face is unwrapped, they all gasp. Instead of the beautiful doll face, the eyes are swollen and hideous. The doll's mouth droops eerily toward one side, exposing its teeth. The hair, rather than a neat bob, is now an unkempt mess. And Inagawa sees that the hair is much longer than it should be. This doll looks nothing like they have seen in the plays. Its mouth screams and its eyes are wide in an expression of absolute terror. This is not a doll, Inagawa thinks. This is a monster. Mrs. Taniguchi is particularly disturbed by the doll, especially knowing its history. Some of them had watched the live show and the fiasco that followed. But Mrs. Taniguchi's hobby is making kimonos, and she offers to make a special, sacred kimono for the doll. Her family has for generations been making family crests and kimonos for shrines. She intends to have its evil enshrined. After this fright, Inagawa and Mino agree. After the events of the day, Inagawa is too afraid to sleep that night. Before they leave for Tokyo, Mino approaches the sleepy Inagawa and says,
I left some sushi and tea as a benefaction for the doll. You think that is enough, right?
Inagawa knows that Mino is scared now too, but he is too tired to make anything of it. And when they go back to Tokyo, it is without the doll. For a time, Inagawa feels a weight lifted from him. But what he does not realize is Mino later went back for the doll and took it home with its new kimono. Part 4. The Fate of Mino. That fall, Inagawa and Mino plan to do another bunraku play called Don Quixote, Riding a Firefly. Although Mino now has the doll back with the new kimono, they decide to use a replica instead of the cursed doll. After the play finished, Mino did not show up for the celebration party. Mino had no close relatives, especially after his father died during the rehearsal of the original play. After being unable to track down Mino, Inagawa files a missing persons report. Almost 3 months pass without hearing anything from Mino. When he comes home one day, he finds a creepy poster of an eye on the wall of his entryway. Shocked and disturbed, he asks who put that up. Then a voice from the living room calls out his name. He recognizes the voice and runs in. Maeno sits there. The once plump middle-aged man had lost weight. His gaunt and gangly body is offset by his hair, which now is neither black nor thick. It is white and thinning. He looks like an old man. Maeno begins to say things that make no sense. He appears to have no memory of where he has been for almost 3 months. Seeing his friend suffering from mental issues, Inagawa has Maeno hospitalized. After a time, Maeno begins returning to his normal self. His natural talents lead him to be offered a part in a film in Europe. Puppet theater is popular in Eastern Europe at that time. Inagawa congratulates him on the good news. Not long after, Inagawa receives a phone call in the middle of the night. It is Maeno. He says,
I leave for Narita tomorrow.
Inagawa says,
Oh, the trip to Europe, how nice. Be careful.
I'll bring you a souvenir.
No need for souvenirs, but Maino-san? Where is the doll?
Maeno says he left the doll with Mr. Komiya. That was the name of the doll maker, the one who disappeared and then was found, and now he was in possession of the doll again. The next day, when Inagawa returns from work, his wife rushes up to him and tells him that Maeno has died. In disbelief, Inagawa says, no, he just went to Europe. Then his wife shows him the newspaper. There are reports of a fire. His house burned down, and inside the house they found a body burnt beyond recognition. It is Maeno. The newspaper reports that he died from smoking in bed after passing out drunk. Later, Inagawa finds out that Maeno died before the phone call. Somehow, he had called from beyond the grave. Having known Maeno for many years, Inagawa knows that the puppeteer is not only punctual and meticulous, but he also never smoked in bed. He is never careless and would not do this right before a long flight, and he certainly would not drink before the flight. Unable to reconcile this with his logical mind, Inagawa vows to himself not to dwell on it any longer. And he also vows not to have anything to do with the doll or the story of the doll anymore. It seems that everyone who comes into contact with the doll or its story comes to some misfortune, sometimes even death. Part 5. The Little Girl Named Ayumi. About 10 years pass, and it is now in the early 1990s. Late one night, Inagawa receives a phone call from a woman who identifies herself as Harumi. She says it's been a long time, but she felt she needed to call him. It takes him a moment to realize that this is the daughter of Mrs. Taniguchi, the woman who made the kimono for the doll. Though young then, Harumi is now in her 20s. She is married and has a 4-year-old girl named Ayumi.
It is because of Ayumi that I am calling. She says strange things and she talks in her sleep in the middle of the night. People say you should not wake up those who talk in their sleep, but it is getting scary. I think it's about the doll.
Inagawa pauses. He wants nothing to do with the doll and has refused to even discuss it since Maeno's death. But Harumi seems seriously concerned about her daughter. He says,
What does she say?
Sakitoto. It's like she talks to someone in the middle of the night. She calls her big sister. What scared me is that she was sitting on the edge of her bed. Her eyes were open and she was looking to the side like someone was there. Since she was awake, I asked her who she was talking to. She said it was her big sister. I asked her, where is this big sister she is talking to? Then she points to the corner of the room and says, over there. Mr. Inagawa, I am scared. I asked her what kind of sister it is, and she says it is a little girl who wears a kimono, nanejigatani. Then she described her big sister, like her hair in a bob cut, and it was just like the doll. I was scared, but I asked her what her sister wants. Ayumi said that the girl is looking for her mom. And then she said that my mom was the one who made her the nice kimono, and she is looking for the woman who made the bad kimono. So I knew it was the doll. But then she said that her older sister wants me. Why does she want me? Ayumi said she wants me to be her new mommy because I am a good mommy who makes nice kimonos for her. I'm really scared now. Ayumi sometimes gives me a creepy smile, and I think she might be possessed.
Inagawa tells her he will look into it. Maeno had given the doll back to the doll creator, Mr. Komiya, who had retired to a shrine. The doll was enshrined there to protect it, or rather, to protect others from it. The next day, he calls the shrine and says he would like to come see the doll. Mr. Komiya says he can come see the doll any time, and that they occasionally clean and care for the enshrined doll. But Mr. Komiya calls him back a little later and tells him that the doll has disappeared. He has looked for it everywhere and cannot fathom where it went or who would take it. The doll's specially made kimono is also missing. When Inagawa tells this to Harumi, she says that Ayumi started saying that her older sister is all torn apart now. They don't know what this means. A week or so after this discussion about the doll, a girl from Inagawa's office comes to him and tells him that something strange keeps happening. For 3 days, a pale-skinned girl has been peeking in through the door. They keep the door open to let in a breeze since it is hot outside, but this is an office on the 9th floor and there are no children. She is spooked by this. A few weeks later, Inagawa is working late and he falls asleep on the couch in the office. Footsteps wake him, though everyone is left for the day. He hears more footsteps and realizes they are coming from the ceiling tiles above his head. Despite the fear welling up inside, he steps on the desk and pushes up on the ceiling tiles. The footsteps stop and he sees nothing up there, but water is pooling around that spot without any discernible source. Another night, he hears the sliding of the rice paper doors at the office, the same ones that keep open to let a breeze through. Surprised, he looks up. In the gap in the sliding door, he sees a girl with bob hair and white skin, peeking with only half of her face visible through the gap. She stares at him. He sees only part of the left side of her body, and before fear grips him, he wonders if she has a right arm and leg. The incidents are not limited to his office. While at home in bed one night, he sees a shadow on the translucent rice paper door. It just stands there in the other room as though looking at him. He thinks, she is coming for me. It's still happening after all these years. It steps to the door and begins to slide it open. He sees its black shadow of a hand, yet solid in form, pushing open the door. Panic grips him. Is this what Maeno saw right before he died? He sits up suddenly in bed. The shadow disappears. Another night at the office. He has fallen asleep again, and the fluttering of the blinds next to him wakes him up. He thinks it is because someone has opened the door, letting a breeze run from the open window to the blinds. He calls out when he hears footsteps beyond the open door to the far office. They fade away. No one is there. He asks staff at the office if they have seen a strange figure before. Several admit they saw the figure of a doll in the dark corners of the office, but when they turn in surprise to get a good look at it, the doll suddenly disappears. At the request of a producer friend, he begins to tape record the sounds to ensure he is not hallucinating. This friend compiles and sells the tapes as part of an anthology of scary and creepy stories. The recording is called Strange Stories for Long Autumn Nights and includes his version of the story along with these strange sounds he recorded in a section called The Mystery of the Puppet. The tapes contained eerie footsteps, closet doors opening and closing, dragging of something across the floor, and even the sounds of a girl crying and whispering. These are all sounds of Inagawa's actual recordings of the paranormal in his apartment, some while he was sleeping and some while he was awake. Customers flood the producer with complaints that the tapes are malfunctioning. Some even begin smoking or burst spontaneously into flames. They consider the recordings must be cursed, or at least tainted by the curse of the doll. After just a week on the market, the tapes are withdrawn and sold no more. Some psychics and mediums have said this type of activity indicates that the doll may have some sort of demonic presence beyond any ghostly hauntings attached to it. But for Inagawa, he just wants nothing more to do with the doll or its curse. Part 6. It Does Not End. As Inagawa distances himself from the doll and its story, years pass. About 9 years later, he goes to a wedding of Harumi's brother back on the island, where Mrs. Taniguchi lives. Naturally, he sees Harumi and Ayumi. By now, Ayumi is 13 years old. She runs out and gives Inagawa a hug and calls him uncle as if they are best friends. Harumi and Ayumi bring him a picture that had been found in the grandmother's dresser drawer. This is the same grandmother who made the kimono for the doll, but who had recently passed on. They do not know how the picture ended up in the dresser. Inagawa recognizes the photo as taken from one of his shows in the 1970s. It shows him and the doll, and Mr. Maeno's apprentice, who later became Inagawa's manager. He knows immediately that this picture cannot exist. Never has he been on stage with Maeno's apprentice. They never had any performances together. The scene in this picture never happened. Ayumi tells Inagawa that she found the picture in the drawer and that the doll in the middle is her sister. But Harumi is worried. She rolls up the sleeve of Ayumi's shirt. There are 2 scars on the right arm. Harumi explains that Ayumi had been injured there and required surgery, but then was injured again soon after. That one only required stitches, but it was odd that there are 2 scars in almost the same place. Not long after that, Ayumi was in yet another accident. This time, a Mercedes crashed into the front window and hit her. The police officer on scene initially thought Ayumi was dead, but it turns out that she was not seriously injured. All except one place, her right leg. Harumi tells Inagawa that she knows about the curse that the doll hurts people in their right hands and feet. She is scared that it is targeting Ayumi. Harumi then points at the picture.
I was so worried that I took this photo to the shrine. But a few days later, the shrine called and asked me to take the photo back. They wouldn't say why, but they will only do that if something is cursed or evil.
Inagawa does not know what to say to this, nor does he want the picture himself.
He's also now hitting things violently. It's not like her. It's like she gets possessed. And she knows things that she shouldn't know, things she couldn't know. She also says she knows where the doll is. She keeps saying she knows where it is. She keeps saying she and the doll will meet. She says she is sure of it.
Harumi encourages Ayumi to tell Inagawa about this. She says, "Yes, Uncle Inagawa, you can meet my sister." He asks her where her big sister is at. Ayumi describes the house as having a long slope, a white wall, and a tiled roof. She says it is an old house on a high hill where samurai used to live, but it is abandoned now. She is surrounded by weeds. She is waiting. "What is your big sister waiting for?" Inagawa asks her. Ayumi looks up at him and says, "She is waiting for you." Then Ayumi draws a picture for Inagawa and says, "She is at a house like this." Inagawa looks down at the picture and sees that Ayumi has drawn a replica of the set on stage for the performance where the doll was used back in the 1970s. Later, Inagawa receives a call from the staff at TV Tokyo. "We found that doll," they tell him, "in the back of a warehouse during some cleaning, along with a number of props. The head was found in one place, and the body of the doll was in another." This brings back the memory of young Ayumi, telling him that her older sister had been torn apart. Inagawa also thinks it is odd that they would call him about this doll after so much time. They have many props. Why call him? How did they know it was that particular doll? He does not have the name of the person who called him, so he calls back TV Tokyo to ask them about it. Their response is that they do not have a warehouse, and they do not know who called him. Inagawa decides not to follow up. He has not seen or heard from the doll since then. However, in a picture he took soon after last telling the story of the doll, he was dressed as Charlie Chaplin. When the photograph was developed, Mr. Maeno and the doll inexplicably appeared on either side of Inagawa in the picture. Even today, he feels his story is not over.
This has been Mysterious Japan, created, written, and translated by Heath Havey. Thank you for listening and making this podcast possible. Please visit our website at www.themysteriousjapan.com for more information. Please join us next time as we continue to explore the dark histories and strange mysteries of Japan.